Larry, I think I'll tell you a little bit more on these tapes. I hope you can make something out of them. I'm pretty bad. I'll talk a little bit and I'll lay it down for a while. But anyway, you'll have to excuse me. But anyway, I think I was telling you about John Vaughn. That was my great-grandfather. And he was a grand old man. It's a shame that everybody in the family couldn't get to know him before he died. I think he died in about 1937. I had two kids when he died, and we took a picture together and made a 5-generation picture. Anyway, he told me a lot of things when I was growing up, and I was with him a lot, and I worshipped him. And we would always watch, because on weekends he would come and spend the weekend over at Grandma's. I stayed over there a lot, and we would always watch for him to come across the hill on Saturday, and he'd spend the weekend with us. So we was always hoping Grandpa'd come that weekend, so we'd watch the hill, and was so happy when we'd see him top the hill. He was a good walker. He walked everywhere nearly he wanted to go, especially when he got older. I think he rode a horse a lot when he was a lot younger and was kind of a circuit preacher too. But anyway, this old man told me a lot of things, and he told me a lot of tales, and he said, I don't lie, so if it's just a yarn, I'll tell you when I get through telling you that it is. And if it's not, I'll tell you, well, I just don't know why it was that way. But anyway, he said one time that him and a friend, he said, I was a preacher, and he was a good Christian man, and we was going to go to town on the horses, and there was this pretty big woods, and we usually went around, the road went around the loop, but we decided this day to cut through the woods and cut off this loop, and so we never had been that way before, but it was really out in the deep woods, and so here we was surprised. We rode up on a little old cabin out in the woods, and we didn't even know it was there, heard it was there or anything, but there it was. And so they had a big watering trough out the front of the house a little way, so we decided we'd get off our horses and give them a little rest and give them a drink of water. So while we was watering the horses, there was a teenage girl come to the door of the cabin, and they asked her, well, we thought, would it be all right if we water our horses? And she said, oh, sure. And so she said that her parents had gone to town or somewhere. They wasn't home. And she come on outside then and come on out to where there was at the watering tank, and she said, I'm a witch. And they thought, well, she just teenage kid. I imagine she's a witch or is trying to tease us or something. So they said, oh, sure enough. She said, yes, I'll show you one of my tricks. And they said, well, be sure and do that. We want to see your tricks. And she said, well, you don't think I am, do you? And they said, oh, yeah, we think you're a witch. Well, she said, I'll show you I can do tricks. So they could see their reflections in this watering thing they watered the stock in. I don't know what it was, but it was a watering tank. Anyway, they could all see their reflections. And she said, well, you watch them reflections. And she said, I'll show you that I can disappear. And so they looked at it a little bit just to please her and carry along the joke, they thought. Well, they said that something strange happened. Said her figure in the water kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, that got them kind of curious. And they thought, well, she's walking off or something. And so they just kept looking at it, and pretty soon they couldn't see her at all. Well, they looked up right quick to look around. She was nowhere in sight. So the cabin door was still open, so one of them said, well, I'm going to go around back of the cabin and see if she's around there, and you look in the cabin. Well, he looked in the cabin, and they went around the cabin. She was nowhere to be seen. Well, they didn't see how she could have got in the cabin that quick and hid or anything. From the watering tank, it was a good little ways out there. So they were just really pretty shook up about it, so they got on their horses and left. And they was pretty well, didn't know what in the world to think about it, so they got out in the woods a little ways, and they were just shaking all over, both of them, and they stopped and was talking about it and wondering, well, what in the world it was. And this other man said, why, she was a witch. That's no kidding. She had powers to disappear like that. And Grandpa said, well, I never believed in witches, but said it was sure a mysterious thing that happened. And he said, well, let's make a pact right now. If we tell anybody this tale, they will think we're nutty. And that we just imagined it or something. And he said, I don't have any idea what it was. And so they made a pact that shook hands that they wouldn't tell nobody about it because people would just think they were stupid and telling a yarn or something. They called a lie a yarn and said that they didn't want people thinking that of them, so they just decided they wouldn't ever tell it. And so, of course, it was years and years before he told me about it. I was already grown when he told me. And anyway, he told me, he said, that's been a great mystery in my life. And I've always wondered about it, he said, because the next day, he said, we decided we'd go back over there and find that little old cabin, and maybe her folks would be there, and we'd straighten some of this mystery out. Well, he said, we went over there and thought we went to right where the cabin was, and there wasn't no such a thing as a cabin there. It didn't look like there had ever been a cabin there or anything. I said, we looked and looked, and we never found the cabin. There was no cabin there. So we was even more mystified than ever then. So we both knew that there was the day before when we went by there and watered the horses. But anyway, he said, that's been a great mystery in my life. All of my life that I've wondered about that. I never seen that girl again. I never seen that cabin again. And I don't know what happened to it. But he said, that's the real mystery of my life, was that episode. And then he said, I'll tell you a couple of ghost stories now. And he said, up in Arkansas, where we lived up there in the community, well, there was a young man and woman, and they didn't have any children, and they lived on this it's a small lake, but it was out back of their house a little ways. So people just got the tales out that when they go by there after night, in the night, when there was a little bit of moonlight, they could see this woman in a white long dress walking around this tank of water, or this little lake or little pond, whatever it was. They could see this woman in this long white dress, and so it scared them, and they thought it was a ghost. Some of them did, and some of them just didn't know what it was. So it rocked on for a good long while. That people had several sightings of it, and they knew, well, they wasn't everybody lying about it. So one morning, this young man woke up, and his wife was missing. Well, he never had woke up and found her missing. But anyway, she didn't. She always started breakfast early in the morning, and she hadn't even started breakfast, and got daylight, and she still wasn't there. And he called her and looked for her, and he couldn't find her any place. So finally, he went out around this tank, and he seen her in the water, face down, and she was drowned in the deep end of the tank, or the water hole. She was there floating in the water. She fell in there and drowned. So he alerted all the neighbors. So that's what the ghost was. She was a sleepwalker. Used to people walked a lot in their sleep. A lot of people did. They might not ever know it. They'd get up and walk around and go back to bed. Or anyway, she was a sleepwalker, and she'd always went back to bed. But after she fell in there, why, she couldn't go back to bed. So that's how come that was that ghost story. It wasn't a ghost story after all. But anyway, then the other one was, he had I think it was a cousin or something that lived up there in Arkansas, and he was just kind of, he was slow in his thinking and all, but he was married and had a family, lived on a little old farm up there, and in the mountains somewhere. Anyway, he was just kind of superstitious and, just kind of ignorant, he called him. But anyway, they kept some guys from the city come out there and was looking at his land, and they went to the house and hit him up to buy it. For some reason or other, they wanted it real bad, even to mine on it or something. And he thought the city slickers, he didn't want to sell his farm. He'd lived there all of his life, and his parents had lived there, and he'd raised his family there. He told them, said, I don't care how much money you offer me. I'd rather have this place as the money. He said, I'm not going to sell it. Well, they kept coming back and trying to get him to sell, but he wouldn't do it. So one night, way in the night, he heard this terrible noise, and the house sat kind of on the side of a hill, and the pasture was kind of down below, and you could see the pasture from the house. And this noise was coming from the pasture. So he went out on the porch, and it was night sometime or other, and looked down the pasture, and this huge white thing was down there, and it was just moving. There was enough moonlight that he could see it, and it definitely was moving, but it was huge. It was great big, and it was kind of low on the ground, and Lord, it just scared the old man to death, and he run back in the house and woke up his wife and some of his kids or something. Anyway, they all went out on the porch and looked, but they were too scared to go down there and see about it. Just made an awful noise. So the next morning, bright and early, he said, well, I'm leaving this place, and I never want to see it again, or I'll never come back here again the rest of my life. So someone, I guess, got in touch with the people that was wanting to buy it, the guys from the city. And so he packed his wagon and his family, and he pulled out of there. And that was, come to find out what it was, someone found hid down in the pasture behind a tree or something. They found a huge, somebody had sewed a bunch of white bed sheets together and made a huge big spread and they had, some of them come out there in the night, and they got under that and had something to make this weird noise and to see if they could scare the old man out of the place. Well, sure enough, they got the lamb that away, and then they put done some kind of mining or something there. I don't know what it was, but anyway, that's what they wanted it for. So that turned out to be another ghost tale that he told me. So anyway,